Hello, welcome to Plurality of Earth. My name is Dale DuFay. I know that's a strange title, but there is a plural to Earth, and most people don't realize that. Of course, there isn't. You know, we're raised to think that we are a singular species on a singular Earth, and that's not the case at all. The Mandela effect's revealing that there is a multitude of Earths, and we have a parallel existence on all of them, or perhaps many of them. Some of us might not be on all of them. We know Nelson Mandela wasn't. But at any rate, this video is going to concentrate here on Google Earth, a very good tool for, because it represents the Earth and reality that you're currently in, and have always been in. We've always been in these realities. Why we know that? Because we're here, and we've always been here. But anyway, the topic of today is Indiana. I mean, look at Indiana. I was listening to the local weather yesterday, in fact, here in Southwest Michigan. There's a real good weatherman named Jeff Porter, and I listened to him very carefully. And he mentioned the boot of Indiana. And I was just like, the boot of Indiana? What the heck is he talking about? So sure enough, I looked, and look at that. There it is, right there on the southwest corner of Indiana. There's sure enough a boot right next to Illinois. Now, of course, I don't recall that because that was that borderline, that western borderline of Indiana, right against the eastern border of Illinois, was pretty much straight up and down. There certainly was no boot. And then another thing that's interesting is how short Indiana is north and south. I remember it being virtually the same distance north and south as Illinois. But here it's quite a bit shorter. But there has to be compensation made up because the United States in these realities is much smaller. In fact, the whole continent of North America, along with the other ones, are much smaller than what many of us recall. But the boot one really caught my attention. That was something pretty recent because we're obviously still shifting. In fact, the other day we were talking about Turkey with the earthquakes and everything, and you could see that Turkey is spelt totally different here. Look at that, Turkiye. That's very interesting. I know that they recently changed that a couple years ago here in these realities, but even some of the recent realities that this portion of my soul was at, were other, because we're at all these realities, our souls are allowed to coalesce into other replica versions of ourselves that have been sharing our souls since the day we were born. But that's something new. So that kind of led me to believe that, apparently we're still shifting. I thought maybe it stopped, but I imagine we were shifting, but, pretty regularly perhaps, but it was always into realities that were virtually identical. But that really caught my attention with Indiana. It's got a boot in these realities. And of course, there's so many other strange things. The northern border of Minnesota, all the states in general being smaller. The Dakotas are really like a couple hundred miles at least narrower east and west. And that again is to compensate for the size of the country, which is much smaller than we recall. So that compensation has to be made up somewhere in the state borders and the state lines. And it seems to be like right in the middle, like the Dakotas, Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and all those states are much narrower east and west. And then, of course, there's some compensation north and south, too, and we see that in Indiana for sure. And, of course, the Michigan, I live here in southwest Michigan, and I never thought I'd be living in Michigan, but here I am. But I don't recall the southern border of Michigan being offset like that, with the state, Ohio and Indiana. That was always straight across, as I recall. But I noticed that in many of the previous realities that I've shifted into. But that's something I wanted to bring up. And it's just amazing how different the mitten looks in of itself, how big the northern peninsula is, upper peninsula of Michigan. It's so much different than I recall. It was a lot smaller. And then the borderline of the north borderline of the United States was, on the southern shore of Lake Superior, and it wasn't right in the middle of Lake Superior like it is here. And of course, that strange bump up in Minnesota that's been in a lot of the recent realities for the last couple of years. But this is the one that really recently caught my attention, was the boot in Indiana. So with that, I thank you for watching, and we'll talk at you later. Love you.